What's up, everybody? This is Sea Launch Sports here. I'm not even going to do introductions today because I'm pissed off. All right. So, first topic we have, we're just going to react to Kevin Durant's injury. Now, I'm so pissed off, I'm just going to go ahead and get into this, right? Okay, so I think that this is probably the worst thing that I've seen anybody do to one of their own players. Kevin Durant shouldn't have played yesterday, and I'm really pissed off about it. I don't even like Kevin Durant. I told you, I don't like Kevin Durant. I don't hate him, but I don't love what he did to go to the Warriors and everything. But that said, he's one of the greatest scorers that we've ever seen, and he has the potential to be the highest scorer in NBA history by the time he's done with his career. But as we all know, he has an Achilles injury, and this should have been common knowledge from the beginning. So it was May 8th when he got sidelined from the series with the Rockets. And people were immediately worried about his Achilles. Twitter was going, oh man, I hope he didn't tear his Achilles, whatever. After the game, they said that it was a calf injury, so no one's freaking out. And originally, it was called a grade 1 calf strain, but eventually, of course, it proved to be worse. Because after 7 to 10 days, when people thought that he was going to come back, they were saying, okay, he's probably going to be out a little bit longer. And so it had been game to game up until really yesterday. Now, Chris Bouchard about a week ago said that based on the medical people that he knew, they were saying that they don't think that it's just a calf strain because of where he was putting the ice on his leg. It was a little low as opposed to where normal people put their ice on calf strains. So we've had this speculation for a long time that it was worse than just a calf strain. And then Friday, the day of Game 4, Jalen Rose reported on NBA Countdown that Durant's workout wasn't good on any level. So Friday, it was 3 days before Game 5. Mm-hmm. Kevin Durant didn't look good enough to step on the court. He looked horrible, is what they were saying. And then somehow 3 days later, he looks good to go in Game 5 of the NBA Finals. I'm not buying it necessarily. And then what we saw was Steve Kerr say that, oh, we're going to play him in short bursts. So that sounds like you're maybe managing his minutes appropriately, right? No. Steve Kerr actually deserves a lot of blame for this because he played 12 of the first 14 minutes. Is that a short burst?
No.
Is there any short bursts in there, Hayden? No. So Steve Kerr, excuse me, I just did something with my screen. Steve Kerr didn't play Kevin Durant in short bursts. Kevin Durant looked wonderful out there. I was actually worried for the rest of the series. And then he gets injured. Mm-hmm. And then today, Chris Haynes for Yahoo Sports reported that Kevin Durant wasn't even close to 100%. So it seems like there have been red flags over and over and over again this entire playoff, the last series, the series before, and now that Kevin Durant probably shouldn't have played. And they brought him back anyway in Game 5 of all games when, if let's just say they were up 3-1, they wouldn't have probably brought him back. They probably would have, played it safe.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, and then I know that a lot of people are like, oh, well, no one was forcing Kevin Durant to come back. Well, that's not necessarily true because we as fans would have, if he were cleared but he didn't play, we would have been calling him soft.
We would have tore
his
up.
legacy would be horrible right now. He would be called a quitter. He'd still be called a snake, which I still agree with, but his legacy would be done. And so, in my opinion, it was like, no one forced him to do it, but he was very much pressured to do it by both the organization, by fans, everyone. Mm-hmm. And I'm really pissed. I think the Warriors did one of the worst things that I've ever seen anybody do to a player by making him play when it was obviously premature, and everyone knew, and besides them apparently, that there were red flags concerning his return. And so I'm just really pissed off. I want to see the Warriors lose still. I'm also pissed off at the fans of the Raptors, but at the end of the day, I'm more pissed off at the Warriors because when I hear them say, oh, reports are showing that KD, tore his Achilles or injured his Achilles. No. The Warriors tore Kevin Durant's Achilles. They injured Kevin Durant's Achilles. Kevin Durant didn't do that. The Warriors did it. And I'm pissed off. Someone take this from me. I'm pissed off, man. This is what did Stephen A. Smith say? This is not a day to mess with me. I'm not in the mood.
Dude, I agree with you 1 I told you before we started that I was going to agree with you 100% on this. And I don't think there's any reason for anyone to disagree with that because it's obvious. It's out there. You see what the Warriors did to him. Okay, he was medically cleared.
Which I don't
I'm sure as an athlete, medically cleared.
I don't know who did that.
And, as an athlete, if you're Kevin Durant, you're going to want to. If you're cleared, you're going to want to do everything you can to get back on the court.
Yeah.
Because it's the finals, you want to get back out there. You want to help your team win. So I get that part. I get him wanting to be back out there. What I don't get is the Warriors and the medical staff allowing him to get back out there. I understand they're down 3-1 and it's an elimination game, but there's absolutely no reason for him to be playing. Like you said, he was nowhere close to 100%. And I think everyone knew that going in, that he was not close to 100%. I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous that he was even playing in that game from the get-go. And it is. It's the Warriors' fault that he tore his Achilles, which is probably what it's come back as.
Another thing about an Achilles injury, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but an Achilles injury is not something that you can just, it feels bad today, it's probably going to get.
No, that's a year.
Perfectly fine, and at any moment it could have just popped, and that's exactly what we saw. An Achilles injury, it could feel completely fine and then just pop. And so I can't give any blame to him. He probably thought he was fine to go. So sorry, continue.
And I'm sure he didn't feel. I'm sure he didn't feel like he was 100%, but I'm sure he felt good enough to go.
Yeah.
So now, looking forward, an Achilles injury is about a year's worth of recovery and rehab.
Yeah.
So this is going to affect his free agency going forward. This is going to affect his career moving forward. So not only did they hinder him for now, they're going to affect his free agency. So if you're Kevin Durant, you don't think so?
I think he might still get a max contract, but
he will.
Huh?
He will, but do you think this is going to affect his decision in any way?
It might.
I think it will.
I think that there's certainly. I think things are up in the air right now. I absolutely think that there's things up in the air right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a tore Achilles. We all saw the video. You saw that slow-mo on his right leg. You saw it just pop and snap and pull back.
Yeah, it's not a minor injury.
No, it's definitely not a minor injury. And you could tell the way he was grimacing on the court, and what I heard, it's like whenever you tear your Achilles, you take a step and you feel like your leg's not there. You feel like there's nothing there.
Your foot.
Then everything just goes numb. Yeah, you feel like your foot's not there and everything just goes numb.
We were there when Ryan tore his.
I wasn't there.
Did Ryan tear his?
Yeah,
Ryan tore his like a year and a half ago or something.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Dang.
So you could tell, it looked like, he tore it. He was still standing, and he took a step, and that's when he fell down. So he was probably like, maybe I'm okay. And then he takes that step down, and then he's like, okay, something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that further shows you that's what this injury is.
For sure.
Yeah, and it's like he could walk off the court, but he needed help because I don't know. I've never done it, so don't quote me on this, but the pain at first probably isn't severe. It hurts, but it's not, it's not terrible. It just feels
you're
like
probably more in shock.
Something's wrong.
Probably goes into shock more than anything.
There have been guys who've torn their Achilles and it didn't look like it hurt them that bad. Like Kobe, I think he shot free throws after his torn Achilles.
Yeah. All right, but that's Kobe.
Yeah, Wesley Matthews, guys like that. DeMarcus Cousins, I didn't see them on the floor just, going crazy in the pain.
Yeah.
That's not what it looks like.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think it's 100% the Warriors' fault. He should not have been out there playing in that game. And like you were saying, if the series is tied even, or if they're up in the series, he's not playing that game.
Right.
There's not a chance he's playing that game. So he wasn't ready. And what do y'all think about who was it? Was it the president of operations?
The
GM? It was on the podium crying?
Bob Myers?
Yeah, Bob Myers.
Man,
yeah.
I think it was sincere.
I think it was sincere, but I also think he knew, hey.
Well, yeah, I think he realized that. I think he realized.
Sorry.
Well, I am too, but I feel like it was part. I feel like you've got to make it. I'm sure he was hurt over it. I'm not sure doubting that at all.
Well, when he said it's nobody's fault, I was like, no, it's y'all's fault.
Well, that's what he said. He said, if you want to blame anybody, blame me.
I'm going to blame all of y'all.
Yeah.
I'm actually at the point. I think there needs to be an investigation about what went into that clearing, and I want to see somebody get fired if there was something that was wrong. Like I'm dead serious.
Absolutely no obligation to that. That would be just fine. Because I think someone does need to lose their job over this, because that's a big deal.
If there was something that went wrong, which I think that there probably was, I want to see some sort of repercussions. And it might have, maybe the guy didn't even want to clear him, but maybe someone at the top said, "Hey, we need Kevin Durant," and put a lot of pressure on their employee to go ahead and clear him. I don't know. That's just a guess, not a guess. But
I think you see this in the NFL quite a bit, where players aren't, they're not 100% ready to go, but the medical staff will be like,
The NFL more than the NBA, for sure.
Yeah, the NFL definitely more than the NBA, but I think this was such a high-profile game, such a high-profile team, such a high-profile player. This is such a big deal now, and I think it happens all the time, and that doesn't mean it's all right, but you see it, and it doesn't matter. It's just an observation. You see it a lot more in the NFL than you would in the NBA, but that doesn't make it any more acceptable. And I think someone does need to lose their job over this, because I don't know. I think this situation right now, and you kind of need to set the precedent moving forward of this isn't okay. You can't put a player at risk like that when they're already having issues. They said it's calf, but when they're already having problems with their lower right leg, that keeps them out for an extended period of time.
Well, yeah, because then you're, because your calf is necessarily weaker. I mean, the rest of your tendons and joints and everything else is going to have more pressure on it, because you can't put a whole lot of pressure on your calf. Yeah. I actually think it started as a calf injury.
Yeah.
It may have.
And then they tried to rush him back, and rushing him back and not being able to put 100% of pressure on that calf is what made the Achilles snap.
I agree.
So did you see? I may have not been paying enough attention, but to me, it didn't look like he was playing at 100% in the first quarter. He was shooting very well. He was getting his looks. The Kevin Durant looks that aren't looks for other people.
He didn't attack at all. He didn't drive to the basket at all.
He didn't use anything that I think that would have put excessive force onto that leg. So I think he knew that going into the game. Hey, I need to play this way. And it's not like he was driving on that injury. He was moving from the right to the left, and he was just switching, the way his momentum was. And I think he put a lot of pressure on that right leg, and it was the first time I'd seen him do it, and that was all it took.
Exactly.
Obviously, he was not ready to go.
Yeah. For all we know, he could have just been cutting to the left to pull up like he had been the rest of the game, because he wasn't driving. You're absolutely right. He wasn't attacking.
That's probably what he was doing. And you speculate on that all you want, but I think that's probably what he was doing. That was probably his game plan moving in, was I'm going to play this conservative basketball. He's still very effective playing that way, but he just put too much pressure on it, and it ended up tearing.
Yeah. Kevin Durant.
What you got?
Did we cut you off?
It's fine. It's all right. I'm used to it. The thing that I think, yes, it's the Warriors' fault for sure. But I think a lot of the pressure came from Kevin Durant, because there's a lot of people that question, his toughness and heart and all that type of stuff. And so I personally think Kevin Durant put pressure maybe even on the injury, whoever clears them, to clear him to play.
It doesn't matter, though.
What?
It doesn't matter. They should, obviously players are always going to pressure them to clear them, but I feel like they should be held.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. So I don't think that takes any blame off of them.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. Yeah. But I think Kevin Durant was trying to prove a point.
Probably.
It's been a rough few years in Golden State for him outside of basketball. I think a lot of people, if you ask a random fan, they probably say that his legacy or however you evaluate his career, has taken a big hit from doing what he did by running to Steph Curry. And I'm not saying this is necessarily true, but it's awfully convenient that there's been all this talk about Kevin Durant leaving the Warriors, and then all of a sudden they rush him back, and now he's injured. I'm not a conspiracist, whatever all the other bullshit that goes on like that, but I just think it's very convenient more than anything.
It is.
Do you think that he might opt into his last year?
I do personally.
Why not? Right? You're not going to play.
Exactly. He's not going to play anyway. He's out for, So, yeah. I just think it depends exactly how severe the whole thing is and how quickly he can come back, because even DeMarcus Cousins, who coincidentally played for the Warriors this year, was coming back from an Achilles tear, and he was supposed to be out a lot longer, and then he played Christmas. So I just think it kind of depends how the body handles it. I'm more worried for Kevin Durant because outside of scoring is what he does the best. So it kind of worries me a little bit in terms of how is he going to handle being able to explode, or because he's not strong. He uses being quick to get the basket. Yeah. So my whole thing is, how does that affect him going forward? Kind of different styles, but a good example would be Kobe when Kobe tore his Achilles. Kobe had battled through a lot of injuries and continued to be productive. But as soon as he came back from that Achilles tear, yes, he was much older, but I think that takes a lot of – it takes you out of how you like to play. I mean, even DeMarcus Cousins, we talked about going into the playoffs, how the Warriors seemed to like they played better when he wasn't playing because he just looked bad.
Yeah,
but yeah,
just moved different.
Yeah.
But
we'll get into his Game 5 play.
Sounds good. That's a good transition, I guess, into our next topic, right? Is that?
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. So we can go ahead and talk about our reactions of Game 5 outside of Kevin Durant. Just what went wrong for the Raptors, what went right for the Warriors. What are y'all's reactions?
Hey, do you want to start on this?
I would love to.
Hell yeah. Pound that drink and let's get going.
Kawhi. After all the praise that has been heaped onto this man during the postseason, for him to be at home last night in a closeout game to win the franchise its first finals and to disappear like he did is unacceptable. They were up 6 with 3 minutes left, and he took 2 pull-up threes like he was Steph.
Yep.
And you want to know what happened? The Warriors rebounded the ball, ran on the court. Steph hit a 3. He tried to pull up again and bricked it so bad. It looked like LeBron.
Came right back to him.
Yeah. And then Clay ran around a screen, caught a 3, and tied the game. Next possession, Kawhi gets the ball in the post, tries to fade away and airballs from 10 feet. And from there, he continues to pass the ball to Fred VanVleet for the game winner, who then passes it to Kyle Lowry. And we'll get to Kyle Lowry, but if you're gonna put all the praise on Kawhi when he carries them to wins,
Yep.
that game last night was 100% there for the taking, and 95% of it is Kawhi Leonard's fault.
Yeah, we don't agree a lot, but I agree with you there. You nailed that.
Go ahead, sir. I'd like to hear your rebuttal to my Kawhi.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
No. Hey,
Okay.
no.
Oh,
Let me go. Because I do want to hear Kennedy's point. I'm going to side with Hayden here. He had those. So when they were down, or when they were up 6, when Toronto was up 6, Kawhi got them to that point. Kawhi had a 3-minute span where he was playing very well. He was distributing the ball, he was scoring, and he looked active in the offense. But as Hayden was saying, after that point, we were texting at that point, and I said, you know what? This right now feels like it's going to be a hard hole for the Warriors to climb out of, just because the crowd's in it. Kawhi looked like he was starting to turn it on towards the end of the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And right when we were texting, right after that timeout, that was not the case. They came out. Toronto was playing like crap. And the Warriors weren't playing well either. They were hitting some shots, but they weren't playing well. So the game was definitely – yeah, they were turning it over. And it was just stupid, like we were talking about the backcourt violation.
Yeah.
It was just ugly basketball like that. It was there for the Warriors it was there for Toronto to take. And Kawhi and the rest of his team started playing like crap. It was terrible. Yeah. And
drunk, like little boys. Like little boys. So, to Hayden's point, when the Warriors are playing well, as they have all series, you praise Kawhi. This is Kawhi. Kawhi's got them to this point. Kawhi's playing well. This is Kawhi's team, and Kawhi's going to get Toronto their first championship. So, at the end of that fourth quarter, when he plays like dog shit, you've got to give him the blame too. It goes both ways. So even though the entire team was playing terrible, Kyle Lowry started being Kyle Lowry playoff and doing his thing. So it was there for the taking, and they just whiffed. And I hope to God this does not transition forward into the rest of the series, because they might be in trouble if it does.
All right. So let me address something that neither of you brought up, because Ian, I actually at least appreciate what you were able to put out there for one reason only. Okay, so first off, I will say this. Kawhi deserves some blame. I don't want to just say, he doesn't deserve any of the blame. He didn't have a good game. He had a good few minutes, but he didn't have a good overall game. What did he shoot? 10 for 24? He wasn't incredible. In the last stretch of the game, you're absolutely right. He missed shots. I don't think that they were actually that bad of shots to take, but I don't think that at the end of the day, he didn't make them. They were shots that I normally see
shots
him
to win a championship.
make. But yeah, if he made them, we'd be saying differently. But he just missed them.
Definitely.
And so, in my opinion, I'm not that mad about his shot selection, but I'm mad a little bit at just the execution of his shots. But what I'm more mad about is that he looked like he was about to put the team on his back, and he was doing I thought I was watching history. The way that they just blew open, they finally got the lead. Kawhi Leonard scored 10 straight points. They went on a 12-2 run, and they looked like they were going to capture they were going to win in 5.
Yep.
And then Nick Nurse called a timeout. He called a timeout. Why? Because he wanted to give them energy. He wanted to bring back energy. You know who else got energy from that? The Golden State Warriors. And the Warriors looked like they were just they couldn't handle Kawhi. They had no sort of energy. They looked exhausted out there. And Nick Nurse called a timeout when they were on a 12-2 run. I don't know about you, but I don't know what other coaches do that. Steve Kerr wouldn't do that.
I think Steve Kerr would have called a timeout.
Nose to let them go. What?
I think Steve Kerr would have called a timeout if there wasn't one called. So I think the game there would have been a stoppage either way.
Yeah, but Kawhi could have kept that going. Like even just one more basket. This is potentially a different game, because the Warriors have to come back from, what was it? They were up 6, so they could have had to come back from 8 to 9. So
and they won by 1.
Nick Nurse destroyed the momentum and the flow of offense that the Raptors had, and he gave the Warriors every opportunity to develop a defensive plan for Kawhi in that timeout, and that's exactly what they did. Now, I'm not giving Kawhi an excuse, but when you're a coach, you let your team play if they're playing really well. He didn't do that. Now, carrying on, the role players, they just looked confused because Kawhi, they were relying way too much on Kawhi, in my opinion. He was trying to take these shots. No one was moving. You know,
Van Fleet hit a big three.
And was it after the timeout?
I think it was after the timeout.
It was after the timeout, yes.
They still, as you said, they looked horrible, all of them. Yeah. And so, in my opinion, they relied way too much on Kawhi. They maybe got in the last, 3.5 minutes, didn't they just score 2 points with, was it Kyle Lowry's layup that got goaltended?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, no, like, just to me, the role players didn't do very well. Kawhi didn't do very well. They relied too much on Kawhi. They gave the Warriors an opportunity to develop a plan to double team Kawhi and to do all these things that will get Kawhi out of his rhythm. And that all started because Nick Nurse called a timeout and gave the Warriors that opportunity. And then at the end of the game, this is another problem that no one's talking about. They were down 1 with 14 seconds left. Fred VanVleet takes a sweet little time, dishes it to Kawhi with, 6-7 seconds left on the clock. My opinion, this is once again at Nick Nurse. You're down by 1. Call a timeout, drop a play not for the last shot, but so you can make a shot, or if you miss, then you foul them. But you don't take the last shot unless you're tied or winning. And if you're winning, they're going to foul you. So if you're tied, you take the last shot. That's what we saw with Portland. When they were playing against Oklahoma City, Damian Lillard dribbled the clock out because there was nothing for them to lose. In this case, it was game 5, down by 1. If you dribble the clock out and you miss, the game's over. If you shoot the ball, miss, the game's still going. So I don't know what the heck Nick Nurse was thinking at the end of the game. I think that I would give it 70% to him, 30% to – at best, I would give it 50-50 between him and Kawhi. But I think that Nick Nurse, as good as he has been this whole playoff, he just mismanaged the heck out of that last game. And I think it cost them really big. My personal opinion.
I would say 60 Kawhi, 20 Nurse, 20 the rest of the team. Because as much as it is on Kawhi, the rest of the team needs to step up too if your guy's struggling. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I didn't even look into it that much, but the game was mismanaged. But overall, I think you need to you live and you die on Kawhi. So I think he needs to hold a lot of the blame for that.
So Kennedy, you keep talking about the role players didn't step up. Which role player did not step up in that game?
I didn't see anybody playing aggressively. Not in the game in the last 3 or so minutes. I didn't see anybody.
That's what decided the game.
You what? Yeah, that's ultimately
we can basically we can dwindle it down to the last 3 or maybe the last 6 minutes because the Raptors went on their run. And the Warriors responded. So we can, and it was a close game at that point. So we can narrow it down. Say those last 6 minutes. That's what decided the game.
Let's narrow it down to the last. Okay, here we go. No, probably. I wouldn't say last 3 minutes because the Raptors went on their run. They took the lead at 5:13, and then
I said last 6 minutes.
Oh, okay, all right, last 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So Kawhi gets blocked at 5:50. He travels, which he got away with, and somehow gave it to Norman Powell.
That was not a travel.
It was a travel.
I don't think that was a travel. He didn't take that step.
He took his 2 steps and lifted his pivot foot. That's a travel. Anyway, then Iggy shoots some incredibly stupid floater that he misses so bad. Kawhi makes the pull-up. Steph misses a Steph shot. Kawhi
and this is when
3 points, basically.
This is when the point where the war, it's loud as can be in Toronto. And and Steph's taking Steph shots and they're not going in, you're thinking, oh boy, this is
Mm-hmm.
probably it.
And like Kennedy said, Van Fleet grabs the rebound, and Nick Nurse calls the timeout. And
I want to emphasize when the ball was in Kawhi's hands.
yes,
When he was doing well, the only time of the game he was doing well,
yes,
extremely well. He has the ball in his hands, and they called a timeout with it.
This is correct, indeed. Yes. And the Warriors took out Iggy for Quinn Cook.
That's a good call.
Except defensively, but offensively it helped with their spacing.
You need it. Yeah.
And Kawhi proceeds to airball the 11-foot fadeaway shot.
That was rough.
They come down. Clay hits a three. So it's now 103-100 Toronto. They come down. Kawhi has a wide open shot, but instead gives it to Kyle Lowry, who misses the 26-foot three-point shot.
To be fair, Kyle Lowry had an open shot too, but sure.
But hang on, because yes, that's the right play, but there are people all the time that get slandered for making the right play instead of
like
being.
LeBron.
Yes, exactly.
We knew who that was about.
I knew where you were going. Top 2 player of all time. I think that a lot of the time he shouldn't take the right play. He should just go ahead and do the freaking thing himself. But
So
he's gotten better at that.
What's the new?
No, I'm not. Look. Here's the deal. Okay, I'm not saying Kawhi Leonard deserves no blame. I'm not even saying that he played well in the last 3 minutes. 5 minutes he was playing phenomenal, and then it got interrupted by his coach, and then Steve Kerr and the experience of the coaching on the Warriors, they developed a good game plan in that timeout to go ahead and contain Kawhi Leonard. So when Kawhi Leonard was getting contained and nobody else on the Raptors, normally someone on the Raptors has stepped up this series and they've made shots. So Danny Green had a huge game the other day. Marc Gasol's played really well, for the most part. Pascal Siakam. I didn't see anybody who was assertive. I didn't even really see that much movement around the perimeter. They just put the ball in Kawhi's hands and tried to have him do something, and that wasn't working.
Twice he took transition pull-up threes like he's Steph.
He made a transition 3 right before then to, in his 10-0 run.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So by that logic, Kennedy, which I'm not saying you're wrong, but by that logic, I think if you want to look at it that way, we could almost blame it on Kyle Lowry. Because I think he was trying to step up, and he looked out of place, and he looked uncomfortable, and he made terrible, like we were talking about last night, Hayden. He made terrible decisions with the ball. I think he turned it over twice in the last 3 minutes. I think. Yeah. But not just the turnovers. I think he played out of control, and I think he played sloppy. While he was, while Kawhi was, they had a good game playing for Kawhi at the end of that game, and he was effectively being shut down. And I think Kyle Lowry tried to step up and be the guy, and I think the team allowed him to do that, and it just did not work out.
So I would agree with that. I think that's fair.
So the last shot, I think at first it just looked like a bad shot, and then it came back, and you saw it closer. It was blocked. Draymond tipped it with 2 fingers, it looked like. Yeah. But even still, that's a low percentage shot. Why is that the shot you're taking at the end of the game? Kawhi passed it up to Van Fleet.
Why did Kawhi not just go by Clay?
He could have.
He got trapped.
No, Kennedy. Iggy was coming to trap him on the wrong side.
He came to the right side, which was where Kawhi was going. He was about to trap him, and so he moved the ball to Van Fleet, who moved it over to Kyle Lowry. I don't think it was that bad of a play. I think anyone would have passed out of that trap.
Okay, so you passed out of this trap, but why are you taking that shot in the corner at the end of the game?
Well, that's my question too. Why didn't Nick Nurse call a timeout and drop a better play?
He probably should have.
He should have.
And what's funny is all the praise Nick Nurse has gotten through the playoffs. That's a pretty bad look to end the game when you got a chance to put the series away and bring Toronto its first championship. So I think, like you were saying, I think that is an experience. So is
I
it going to
will
carry
say
over?
this.
I don't know, but
I'll go ahead and go. I'll say 50% blame on Nick Nurse, 35% on Kawhi, and then 40% on Kawhi, 10% on the rest of the players. But this is what I'm going to say about Nick Nurse. I think he's actually done a pretty good job in these playoffs. But there have been a few times that I actually think Kawhi has put Nick Nurse on his back. So I don't know if y'all heard about Kawhi's quote at the end of Game 2, where Nick Nurse was like, "We need to go and win one of the games in Golden State." And Kawhi said, "F that, we'll take them both."
Yeah.
So in my opinion, you don't ever say, "Oh, we just need to." As a coach, you never say, "Oh, we just need to get one of two. We just need to get one of two." No. You take it one game at a time, and your mentality is never to just, "Oh, let's just settle for." You never settle. And Kawhi Leonard was the psychological factor in those 2 games that said, we're not going to just settle for one. Yeah. So I thought that was a very interesting mentality for a coach to have of settling. And Kawhi Leonard butted in and was like, "No, actually, you're wrong. We need to get both." And so I think that was one spot where I was like, "Nick Nurse, what are you talking about? Why would you just settle? You can't say that to your players. Maybe you could think that. Why would you say that? Because what if they take one of the games off? What if they won Game 3 and then we're like, oh, we only needed to win one of the 2? They kind of got a little lackadaisical because their leadership. So I thought that he carried them there. And then at the end of what was it? This game, I don't think Kawhi successfully carried Nick Nurse, but he had to deal with the coach being a primary reason why he got dug into a hole in the first place.
So why did Kawhi not call a timeout?
Kawhi
didn't call a timeout, right?
Well, hold on. By that logic, J.R. Smith, who got the rebound last year, started dribbling away.
No.
LeBron should have called a timeout.
We all know.
I was yelling at the screen. I was yelling then. I was like, call timeout, call timeout. I'm still mad at Toronto for that. That was one of the best LeBron performances I've ever seen. But someone should have called timeout. Why didn't LeBron call timeout?
Could have.
You're right. He could have. LeBron's a diva.
I'm just saying, players are not normally the ones who call timeout in those situations. The coach
I agree. I agree. But what happened to Kawhi's mental toughness, being so mentally tough?
He was showing it, and then Nick Nurse called a timeout.
He was. I mean, he was mentally tough.
Last 3 minutes of that game.
He looked. I don't think it was a lack of being mentally tough. I think it was a lack of hitting your shots.
Yeah.
Sometimes your shots don't go in.
It did. Shot? Is that not?
Yeah, but you're not watching. But he looked like he was stone cold that entire game. He did. His shots were not going in, but I don't think that affected his mentality at all. I just think his shots weren't going in, and that's why. And I'm not saying I'm not blaming him for his mentality. I'm blaming him for his poor play.
And I'm okay with that. I'm just saying I think that on your end, Hayden, 95% on Kawhi. Who's the 5%? Is it Nick Nurse?
Yeah.
Is it the red? I just think 5% Nick Nurse.
I'll give 2.5 to Nick Nurse and 2.5 to.
He deserves at the minimum 10%. At the minimum.
Okay, we can give Nick Nurse 10%. Sure.
Okay, we're gonna agree to disagree.
90% Kawhi's fault.
I think we're letting, and maybe it's just me because you guys don't seem to be as upset about it as I was. I think we're letting Kyle Lowry off here.
I think that you might
Kyle
be right.
Lowry is. We were impressed with Kyle Lowry because he finally had a good game.
You're right, but how did he play when it came down to it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I expect that from Kyle Lowry's not going to be the guy to win you a championship.
Yeah, but the issue here was what
Kawhi Leonard.
I agree.
Kyle Lowry still shot 50% from the field.
Did you watch how he finished that game?
So you could say the same thing about Kawhi.
We already are saying that about Kawhi. But okay, Kawhi played like horse shit.
The only one to score in the final 3 minutes for the Raptors. Who was the only one?
It was probably Kawhi.
No, Kyle Lowry.
Okay, what he scored? 2 points?
Yeah, he drove by and kept them in the game. While Kawhi said,
that was a good take. That was a good take.
The only thing that Kyle Lowry did well in that.
I think as a superstar, you've got to understand when they're pressing you, and your opportunity is not going to be there.
So
Because not
why
everyone's
take
fucking LeBron James.
In transition? You're not Steph.
I agree.
Let's look at his.
You say this like I'm disagreeing. Like, as a whole, Hayden, I agree with you here. But I think fundamentally we both agree Kyle Lowry, or not Kyle Lowry, Kawhi Leonard was not hitting his shots. So then if you're the Warriors not the Warriors, if you're the Raptors at that point, where do you go from there? And I'm also
the basket. If
Kawhi,
you look, 7 out of his 10 points in that 10-0 run that he had were at the basket. He made 1 pull-up 3.
And then Nick Nurse called the timeout. They changed their defensive game plan, and his scoring opportunities were not.
Their best defender out, their second best defender out, and put in Quinn Cook. They didn't bring in defending guys.
They still have other good defenders. They put freaking Klay Thompson, who was all second. Was he second all defensive team in the NBA?
Say Klay Thompson isn't a solid defensive player.
I'm not, but do you think Klay Thompson should be able to keep Kawhi Leonard from the rim? They had
guys like Draymond Green and other people, Andre Iguodala at the end.
But between
Andre
Klay Thompson,
Iguodala stripped him at the end.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying when you're saying when Nick Nurse called the timeout, Golden State adjusted. They took Andre Iguodala out when they called the timeout.
But they still had good defenders out there who played in front of Kawhi.
Out of the game. So at that point, when Kawhi's not going to be he tried. He took his shots, but at this point, you're seeing he's not hitting his shots. They're playing up on him. There's help on him. He's not going to be the guy who's going to step up. How are you going to adjust to that, and how are you going to put this championship away? I'm also blaming him.
Something that's not talked about enough, Kawhi Leonard is not the level passer that he should be with the amount of help that they give on him. On Kyle Lowry's backcourt, Kawhi threw it behind him and he caught the ball and went backcourt. And then on the Van Fleet play, it was behind him. If it had been in the chest, he could have hit Kyle Lowry sooner. And that being behind him allowed Draymond to get over and tip the shot.
That's fair. That's completely fair. I'm just saying, my only point is that Nick Nurse screwed a whole bunch of things up by interrupting the flow. Kawhi Leonard deserves blame. I said that. I said, what did I say? 40%? That's a lot of percentage of blame.
40%.
But you don't think if Nick Nurse didn't call a timeout right there, Steve Kerr wouldn't have turned around and called a timeout anyway?
I think that the way Kawhi was playing, he would have hit another basket. Steve Kerr probably would have called a timeout. And then it's another, 2 points? They lost by 1. That could have changed. I'm not saying they would have won from those 2 points, but that certainly would have changed the game.
I think the game was getting out of hand, and there would have been a stoppage there regardless. It just happened to be Nick Nurse called the timeout, which makes absolutely no sense. I don't understand what he was thinking in that. But
I don't know. The only other thing that I thought it was between that, and it was also between at the end of the game when he didn't call a timeout to go ahead and drop a play, which in my opinion it's really not that hard. Kawhi, what do you want Kawhi to do? Do his sideline little baseline thing. You know his fadeaway that he does on the sideline. If that doesn't go in, it's a different story. I'm not blaming Nick Nurse as much, but he could have done something in those last 2 minutes that I felt like would have adjusted for the fact that Kawhi wasn't able to get really any good looks.
Yeah. I would definitely want, if I'm the Raptors, I'd definitely want Kawhi getting one of his, his signature post-up shot to end the game, as opposed to Kyle Lowry jacking up an unbalanced 3 in the corner. I think that's a much higher percentage shot, and I think you've got a better chance of winning a championship in Game 5 if he takes that shot. But he didn't. So what do we think is going to happen in Game 6 and Game 7?
That's a great question. I'm glad we're moving on because we weren't going anywhere, man. So, but no, that was good. It was good. So I don't think that the Warriors are going to win the series, but I do think they're going to win Game 6. I just have a hard time. So they lost both of their games at Golden State the first 2 times. I have a hard time seeing them losing 3 games in one series at home. I think that they'll play inspired because Kevin Durant, tore his Achilles, presumably. And I think that the Golden State that we saw last night, we're starting to get something going with the three-point shooting, especially at the end with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry hitting three to put them at the end. So I think that at home, I'm not expecting the Warriors to lose a third. Game 7, however, that's where I think that I have a hard time seeing Kawhi blowing a 3-1 lead. And so I'm going to stick with my original prediction, which was Toronto in 7. And I think that Kawhi will come up big in at least one of the two. They could win next game, but I just don't see it. But I think that he'll come up big in Game 7, and I think that they'll win at home. And Drake will come out with a new album.
That'd be sweet.
Go ahead.
Is that it? I don't think that Golden State is necessarily going to use the whole Kevin Durant thing as motivation, just because I think they don't need it. It's a championship caliber team. They've been there for years. They're highest of pedigree when it comes to winning. I don't think they need any extra motivation. I think they know what they need to do going into this game. And I have a really hard time seeing them lose Game 6 at home after this win. I think some of your younger role players are going to have to not, there doesn't have to be one specifically, but I think collectively as a group they need to play well, and I think they will at home. So I think they're probably going to win Game 6. And I don't think it's going to be by double digits, but I don't think it's going to be like down to the wire either. I think they'll have a little bit of maybe a 6-7 point cushion. And then Game 7 is going to be a slugfest. I think it's going to be very close. And I think going into this, I'm going to look like a buffoon saying this, because I swore up and down nobody can beat the Warriors. They're, I think, Kennedy, you agree with me. I think we both said they're not going to lose. It's just not going to happen.
I said when they had Kevin Durant.
That was when they had Kevin Durant. So now they don't have Kevin Durant. They're playing Game 7 in Toronto. Toronto's playing, kind of with some added, kind of like the Mavericks did in 2011. You're going up against this powerhouse, and they've never won a championship before at games at home, and I think they're going in with with this extra motivation. Kawhi wants to bring this championship to Toronto, and then probably leave. But I don't think that like you said, I don't think that he's going to allow that to happen. I think Kawhi is going to step up. I think they're a deeper team when the Warriors don't have Kevin Durant.
100%.
And I like to pick the deeper team. Hayden, who would you say your favorite player on the Raptors are? Other than Kawhi, other than the stars. I think I know who it is.
I like my boy Van Fleet.
Van Fleet. Didn't see that coming. Okay, who would be your second?
Spicy P.
Yep. Spicy P is going to have a huge Game 7. Mm-hmm. I love him.
Mm-hmm. In his first ever finals, he's going to have a huge Game 7 against the greatest dynasty of our generation.
Hayden, it sounds like you think the Warriors are going to come back from 3-1.
Kennedy.
Go ahead. I'm taking the Raptors in 7.
Kennedy, what? We sat here before Game 5, and what did I beg the Raptors to do?
Win.
Just
put it away.
Put them out. Put them away.
Yes.
Do not allow them to go home for Game 6 and then come back for Game 7, where anything can happen, as we saw in 2016.
Yes. I think that the difference between then and now was before Game 5, we thought, okay, Kevin Durant's coming back, and he's going to make this series a way bigger, this is going to be wide open for the Warriors to take it. Now he's out again, and up until he came back, the Raptors they'd been way outplaying. Even in game game 2 that they lost, they played way better than the Warriors. It was just that 20-point run that the Warriors went on that got them over the edge.
A Warrior run.
Yeah, the Warrior, which they hadn't done the rest of the series. That's why they're down 3-1, now down 3-2.
Mm-hmm.
But up until game 5, when Kevin Durant did come back and started off hot, the Raptors had been way out. They'd been crushing the Warriors for the most part. They hadn't been able to play like the Warriors that we've been able to see. So I see what you're saying. It's certainly wide open, especially if it gets to game 7. But I'm really not that worried, in all honesty, just because the Raptors, they've been playing better. For all of the series up until game 5, they've been playing better.
You're right. They've looked like far and beyond the better team.
Interesting. Because I could say the same thing in 2016.
No.
Yes.
No.
I think
the Warriors looked like the better team that the entire four games of the series.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. The entire 4 games.
The difference is
exactly where are we at right now?
We're going into game 6.
You know who the Warriors don't have?
Who?
LeBron. They don't have LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
They also don't have anyone who's in the LeBron category because they don't have Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think. I mean, you're absolutely
All
right.
I'm glad we can agree on that point.
Yeah. So it could happen. You're absolutely right.
I don't know.
I'm having a hard time.
Think,
if it happens, I'll be surprised.
I think Stephen Curry's in LeBron James category.
Possibly.
Better defensively. Stephen Curry would make it all defensive team before LeBron would.
So my prediction, I have obviously Golden State winning tomorrow. But I also wouldn't be surprised because Steph
Thursday, isn't it?
See to shrink. He does not seem to like being the main guy in a finals. So I wouldn't be surprised if Toronto is able to close it out, but I don't see Golden State losing 3 games in 1 series at home, where they've been invincible really until this year. And even then, I think they had the best home record in the NBA, and it was a bad year for them at home. And game 7,
you're going to go Warriors.
I have Golden State winning in 7.
Yeah, you do.
I agree. I think, like you said, Ian, it's going to be a slugfest. But I don't know. The Raptors last night seemed to shrink when it got to that point, and Golden State took advantage of it. Even though Golden State kept DeMarcus Cousins kept making dumb plays to keep the Raptors in the game.
DeMarcus Cousins played well in the second quarter.
Yeah, in the second quarter.
That was it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Done with you. I don't see the Warriors losing after this point. I think going back into Toronto, listening to all the Warriors talk about, this is something we did not talk about. The Raptors fans cheering for Kevin Durant getting hurt.
That was disgusting.
You go and you listen to all the Warriors talk about that, and that sounds like you just gave the greatest team of our generation more ammunition to be coming into your home in a game 7.
Yeah.
And
Klay Thompson was furious.
As I keep addressing this with waking the sleeping giant. You had them down 3-1 coming back into your house. And if you're Raptors fans, why would you give more motivation to a team that doesn't need to be woken up? Why would you wake up this team? That doesn't make any sense. And so I think that's going to come back and bite them, because when the Warriors are playing with a chip on their shoulder, that's when they're unbeatable. And I think that might have given them the little bit of chip that they need. But I would be, for the first time in my life, I would be very happy to be wrong, because I do not want the Warriors to win. I just think they will.
I would not be surprised at all if you're right. I'm open to. Right now, if I had to pick a team, I think we're all confident it's going to go to 7. The Warriors probably aren't going to lose at home, but Game 7 is going to be a good game, and I wouldn't be surprised if either one of the teams win. And I'm excited to be right about Game 6, and then just watch as a fan and get to enjoy that Game 7, because I think that's going to be a really good game. But as far as the fans go in Toronto, you're right. That was the most Bush League thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, who does that? I don't. And you know what?
Who does that?
Toronto
Warriors fans do that. That's the only other.
Yeah.
That's the only other franchise that I've ever. What?
Eagles fans did it when Michael Irving.
Well, yeah. But exactly.
But we know
if you're being
Eagles
compared
fans,
to Eagles fans, that's not a good thing.
Eagles fans are a pedigree of their own, but we don't need to get into Eagles fans. And I don't even know if you know what. I don't even consider Warriors fans of basketball, because they've probably been watching basketball for 2 years anyway.
Well, yeah.
But that's also a topic for another day. But that was disgusting, and I think if we, at the end of the series, if we made a list of deciding factors in this series, why the team that won, if the Warriors win, that's going to be high up there on that list.
I agree.
I thought you said they didn't need motivation.
They don't.
But they don't. That will be a motivating factor for them.
It can be. I'm not saying it will be, but
Kevin Durant will both be a motivating factor. Just personally, so I think that one of the things you remember when Louisville won the championship after Kevin Ware broke his leg and all, So Louisville wasn't the most talented team in the league. They weren't even more talented than Duke, who they were playing, and that was that Kevin Ware broke his leg. But Louisville used that specific injury. There's something about a specific injury like that rallies your team around something, and it gets you emotionally invested more so than you were before, even if you already were emotionally invested. And so that's why I think that this game, the Warriors will win. But I do think it will be close, though, because most of these games have been close, other than the one where Thompson was out. So I think that this one is a winnable game for the Raptors. I think Game 7 is a winnable game for the Warriors. I just think that the Raptors will win in 7.
Yeah, so, I agree with you. I wasn't saying that it's not going to the emotional aspect of that is not going to be a factor. All I was saying is with the winning pedigree that the Warriors have, I don't think they necessarily need it. I think they're capable of tuning all that out and just looking at it one game at a time and taking it from a basketball aspect. I think they can. I think they could just get it done that way. But that being said, the whole emotional aspect of it probably will play into it. I don't necessarily think they need it.
That's fair. Well, I think that's a good way to go ahead and end this. And if you listen, thank you for listening this far. We'll see y'all later the next few days, hopefully.
One thing, I just saw, I don't know if you guys already knew this, Oakland Raiders on the Hard Knocks TV show on HBO.
Hard Knocks.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
I had never watched Hard Knocks.
Dude!
I've never been interested.
So good.
We'll see. I've seen clips from the Browns last year.
You missed our boy Corey's rant.
Oh, I saw that. I saw a clip of that. when he went into Hugh Brown's office.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah. If I'm not gonna play, trade me.
And then he got
Okay,
traded.
we'll trade you, and then you're not going to play football anymore, you idiot.
Yeah.
Like he's Antonio Brown or something. Shut up, man. Get on the practice field. Get in the weight room. You lazy
Corey.
piece of.
Corey, I'm rooting for you. I think you'll be great. Anyway.
I mean, I'm rooting for him too.
Yeah.
But
Get on the practice field.
All right,
Grow
I'm gonna go ahead and
up.
end this. Thank you for listening to everybody. Everybody, thank you for listening.
Shout
Follow
out to
us
the
at
guy in
Lunch
Berlin,
Sports.
Germany.
Yeah, shout out to the Germany. Rysel! Hey!
Fair enough.
All right, we'll see y'all later.